Monopolies. Well, monopolies are actually pretty rare, so let's talk about an oligopoly, where a few companies collude to keep prices at the monopoly rate, which is simply the most a company can charge until charging any more will actually result in them losing too many customers and actually making less money. But the problem with collusion is that if, say, 5 candle-making companies collude to keep prices too high, then some other candle-making company will come along and break the oligopoly. So what these companies will want to do is raise barriers to entry. First, they'll try to erect trade barriers. And to do this, they will lobby Congress and bribe congressmen, and they'll say something like, "We need to protect American jobs," or something like that. And that's good, as it gets rid of pre-existing international companies who would break the oligopoly, but you still have the problem of upstart candle-making companies inside the country. So what you will need to do is get licensing. Yes, the oligopoly will go to Congress and bring up some sob stories about how dangerous candle-making can be and that unlicensed candles could be poisonous or some such nonsense. That way, they can force any potential domestic upstarts to have to go through some long, unnecessary licensing program, 7 years to learn how to make candles. It's like a guild with the apprenticeship. And so it's just another internal barrier to entry designed to limit competition and shaft the consumer. Licensing is great, but the problem is that government officials can be bribed by anyone. So the next step is to allow the oligopolists themselves to issue the licenses. The way you do this is to have a professional association, and the rallying cry would be, let the professionals manage licensing, they know the terrain, get the government out of licensing, or some nonsense like that. And of course government officials are fine to do this, because of course the professional association can be regulated. Oh yes, this opens up the whole wonderful world of inspectors and fees and stamps and stickers and departments and written requests, all taking months to get through some arbitrary maze of office supplies, sometimes even requiring multiple written requests that get lost in the quote system, close quote. It just gives bureaucrats goosebumps just thinking about it. And of course, all this is paid for and enforced by the state, meaning it is enforced by you because you pay for the state. It's bad enough that all this is happening. What's worse is that you are paying for it. The cost of enforcement for all these rules is shifted onto you. You are paying for your own shafting. And this insanity is only possible when you have a state. Because if some candle-making consortium said that they wouldn't license you or give you their seal of approval if you didn't spend 3 years in candle-making school, this consortium would be rendered irrelevant in pretty much real time in a free market. And of course, you will find demagogues who will blame this crap on the free market with the conclusion that the market isn't regulated enough, of course. The last step only applies to oligopolies, and that is having open book accounting. The problem with collusion is that you will have traders from the den of thieves. Let's say you all collude to sell candles at $3 each. If you do this, then a guy who charges $2.90 for candles is going to make a killing, and everyone else who held to $3 a candle won't be able to sell hardly any candles at all. I'm talking about wholesale price here, not retail price. Retail is by definition open book. To prevent this, the oligopoly will go to Congress and say that we must have open book accounting, and will say it's to protect the consumer, which of course is the opposite of the truth. Open book accounting then allows for colluders to charge at the monopoly rate and not fear of anyone in the cabal going off that monopoly rate. This doesn't apply to monopolies because a monopoly is just one company. It can charge a monopoly rate without any worry. And of course, this is what the real robber barons and the old railroad companies did. The state-subsidized rail lines were horribly inefficient, and the Transcontinental Railroad went bankrupt, while a private rail from, I think, St. Louis to the Willamette Valley on Oregon was built and maintained by one company and turned a profit. And of course, charging obscene rates is only possible with collusion. And collusion is only possible in the long run if you have a state or a monopoly, but a monopoly is actually a lot rare. And of course, much of the cost of seizing land and defending rail stations from the natives was done by the government, which was paid for by everyone else through taxes, which are collected at the point of a gun. And there's also a reason that in that famous octopus cartoon of Standard Oil, the octopus is seizing Congress. It's because Congress is the true source of its monopoly power. Some other possible scenarios for monopolies. Buying a monopoly. Let's say one candle maker tries to buy up all 4 of the other candle makers in the whole world, because there's only 5 candle makers in the whole world. Okay. Let's say one candle maker tries to buy up all 4 of the other candle makers, and as he buys up more candle makers, the cost of each merger is going to go up and up and up. This is because as the potential monopoly buys up more and more companies, he slowly gains the ability to be a price maker, not a price taker. And let's say a candle company has bought up 3 of the 4 other candle companies and is about to buy the last one. He's about to become a monopoly. The last company to be bought up is going to absolutely drill the potential monopoly on price. And let's say, even after all this, even after this incredible pricing, you have one company as the worldwide candle monopoly. He's able to buy up all the other companies, and he's the worldwide candle monopoly. And then what will happen is another candle company will show up, and oh look, he's no longer a candle making monopoly and has to charge competitive prices again. Because if he's a monopoly, he's able to charge these insane prices. He's able to charge $40 a candle. And other people around him are going to see this and going to go, hey, I'm going to get in the candle making business and I'm going to charge $30 a candle. And then someone else is going to go, oh, I'm going to charge 20, 10, 10, and you're going to get bid down, and the monopoly's going to get broken. Because the only way a monopoly or oligopoly can be maintained is through violence. Okay, and violence is only profitable if you can make other people pay for it. Meaning you have a government that takes money away from everyone else to pay for the enforcement of your insane barriers to entry, of your licensing, your association, your fees, your regulations, your trade barriers, all this stupid crap that allows you to shaft the consumer is only profitable if you can offload the cost of enforcement onto everyone else. And the only way you can offload the cost of enforcement onto everyone else is if you have a state. Another scenario is the super local monopoly. What about the single Walmart in a small town that is a monopoly monopsony, meaning it provides all the services of the town and employs the whole town on everything and is completely reaming its workers on wages? Well, workers earning less than their marginal revenue product is unsustainable, and another company will come in and try to bid up the labor. Okay, it's just the laws of supply and demand applied to the labor market. If labor is not being paid its marginal revenue product, meaning not being paid what their labor is actually worth, then a company will see this cheap labor and pay a little bit more in wages. You know, it's like $2 an hour. Oh, cheap labor! I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pay them $2.50 an hour, $3 an hour, $3.50, blah 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 blah, until you bid it all the way back up to the market rate, to what their labor is actually worth. This is basic supply and demand. This is first semester economics. Another scare scenario is the natural monopoly. Fine example of this is an operating system where it's just easier to have everyone have the same operating system, where a single company is the most practical. Okay, like for Microsoft. What happens in natural monopolies, such an operating system, is that while Microsoft has a monopoly on an operating system, let's say, it doesn't have a monopoly on things a person can do. Okay, so if it charges stupid rates for its operating system, people will not use an operating system or not have computers, or even a natural monopoly isn't complete, as other companies have made operating systems compatible with Microsoft, and all the Office programs for Microsoft all have competitors. And so we can see this right now. With a natural monopoly it's a bit more difficult, and of course the government doesn't help with the natural monopoly either. But with a natural monopoly, it's a bit more difficult, and it takes a little bit of time. And so Microsoft was able to ream the consumer because it is a natural monopoly, but it's not doing it quite as much anymore, as it's having a little bit more competition, and as competition has begun to materialize. And the reason it's been able to materialize is because, for whatever reason, Microsoft hasn't been successful in lobbying Congress to enforce barriers to entry on operating systems. The idea that we need a government to protect us from monopolies is logically and empirically silly. It is also a contradiction that we need the biggest, most bloody, and violent monopoly of all time to protect us from fictional market monopolies whose only power is to overcharge you for something. And even overcharging is rarely done, and never consistently or in the long run.